You've probably seen in the news reports of somebody going overboard on a cruise ship and thought to yourself, how could that possibly happen? And what would happen if you were on a cruise when that occurred? Well, I want to share with you the realities of what to expect if there's a man overboard situation on your cruise and what it truly means. Hey everyone, it's Matt from RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com. The longer you pay attention to cruising, even if you don't, you've probably heard or seen in the news, again, reports of somebody going overboard, and it sounds like a very scary situation. Certainly something that you never want to have to think about, especially when you're on vacation. The most important thing to understand first and foremost is that nobody just falls overboard like you might think that they would slip on a banana peel or lose their footing and simply go over the edge of the ship. It doesn't work that way because of the safety barriers that are in place. When somebody goes overboard, there's probably one or two situations going on. One, they jumped, or two, they put themselves in a place they're not supposed to be, where they did something they're not supposed to do, and then, as a result of that, they fell overboard. An example of that is climbing up on a balcony railing in order to get a selfie. Yes, this has happened. So let's start with something that's really important to understand, which is that it's not easy to fall off a cruise ship. Unfortunately, a lot of media reports tend to use the word fall to describe the action, which conjures up, again, people just minding their own business and then falling over. But the reality is people don't just fall off the side of a cruise ship. This is a fact. There are railings that are pretty high, and it's almost always the result of an intentional act. Cruise ships have railings that are around chest height to ensure passenger safety and to prevent somebody from slipping and falling overboard. Time and time again, the cruise ship security cameras catch people that are going overboard as the result of an intentional act or the result from a passenger's action. And yes, suicide at sea unfortunately does happen. Even in situations where people haven't actually gone into the water but simply broke the rules and put themselves in danger of going overboard, they've gotten in trouble. As an example, there's a woman that stood on her balcony railing and was banned for life as a result of it. When there's somebody that has gone over the edge of the ship and is in the water, it's called a man overboard situation. It's a maritime term, and basically it means someone's in the water and the ship has now been alerted to it, and they're going to do everything they can to obviously find that person. The problem is a cruise ship doesn't just stop on a dime. It's not like when you're driving a car and you can simply slow down and stop. Cruise ships take a while to slow down because they're in the ocean and they're doing something like probably 20 knots or so. In order to actually stop a cruise ship fully takes a lot of time. Plus, of course, there's a time in between when the person goes into the ocean and the time in which someone's been alerted to it. It's not always quite instant. The first thing the ship's crew will do is attempt to ascertain when the man overboard situation occurred. The ship will also contact local authorities to help conduct a search. In the United States, the Coast Guard is that contact, and in some cases, the Coast Guard can actually go into foreign countries like the Bahamas and places like that, where they have agreements in order to do so, to assist with a search and rescue effort. Both the ship and local authorities will attempt to search an area based on where the person likely hit the water and where they're likely to be at this point. In fact, other cruise ships that are in the area may even be called in to assist with the search, and cruise ships can also lower some of their rescue craft that they have on board to, again, cover more distance. There aren't any compiled statistics from government sources about how many people go overboard a year, but according to Cruise Critic, it's about 20 people or so. And of course, if you think about that 20 or so, and then think about how many millions of people go on a cruise ship a year, obviously it's a very, very small number. Nonetheless, you'll see headlines in your local news, national news, and online just about, somebody falling overboard a ship, and it gets circulated because it's sensational. People are like, oh my goodness, I can't believe that happened. And social media certainly exacerbates that quite a bit. If someone's to go overboard on a cruise ship, you might be wondering, well, do they always die if that's the case? And the answer is no, but survival rates really do end up being quite low, but it depends on a number of factors. First and foremost, the impact of the water, because if you're jumping off, deck 15 of a cruise ship, the distance required to get down to the water, the speed of force that hits it, can sometimes be fatal in and of itself. But assuming that's not the case, then there's other factors at play. Number one, of course, is how cold is the water. Number two is how quickly the ship is alerted to the issue and is able to stop to conduct the search. Then, of course, there's weather patterns, which may dictate how far away the person gets swept away in the ocean, the person's ability to swim for a long time, and other factors as well. In my experience covering this sort of news on RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com, I would peg it at right around a quarter or so of the time they actually do find the person. But most times, there's a search and rescue efforts, and then within about a day or so, they just give up because they just never find the body. When these incidents do occur, it's a very sensitive situation because this is someone's life at play. And of course, their family members are going to be obviously concerned, and there's a privacy element to it. Now, if you're on a cruise ship and this does happen, you'll hear a code word called Oscar, Oscar, Oscar. Every cruise ship has special code words they use: Alpha, 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 Bravo, 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 and in this case, Oscar, Oscar, Oscar. Each one has a special connotation. Alpha, Alpha, Alpha is for a medical emergency, Bravo is for fire, and Oscar is for man overboard. The purpose of this code is to alert crew members who need to act immediately to conduct the search, but not necessarily alert the guests on board, because ultimately it's not going to necessarily impact what they're doing. Now, I think naturally people are going to notice it when the ship stops, turns, crew members are acting in a different manner, but this is not meant to hide it from guests on board, simply just to alert people who need to know about it, which are the crew. But I think even if you're not aware of those codes, you'll probably notice the ship turning, especially in a very swift manner or trying to slow down in order to conduct the search. If you're up on a public deck or you're looking out from your balcony, you're going to see probably emergency responders searching, lights involved, and a lot of people in the area. In fact, even you might see a helicopter in the area trying to conduct a search. So pretty soon it becomes apparent that something is not normal that's occurring. In most scenarios, the captain of the ship will usually make an announcement after the incident occurred, or at least at some point to alert passengers what's going on. I mean, crew members are going to get a lot of questions about it anyway, and they're not trying to hide it necessarily, but they're also not going to be terribly forthcoming because, again, it's privacy information and ultimately it's none of your business. Now, if you're somebody who's listening to all of this and thinking this sounds horrible, maybe I should not go on a cruise at all, I would tell you not to worry about this one bit. Somebody going overboard is obviously going to be on someone else, but for you as a personal concern, I think there's really no warranted reason to cancel a cruise or not go on a cruise as a result of the fear of going overboard. Not only is it extremely unlikely, but as long as you're following the rules and not doing something you're not supposed to do, like, getting up on a balcony railing or going into a restricted area, you'll be fine. It's just not going to happen. And in all my times of going on cruises, I've never once been in a scenario in which I was remotely close to going overboard on a cruise ship because I've never broken the rules to go to somewhere I'm not supposed to be or doing something I'm not supposed to do. If I'm being real with all of you, man overboard situations, while quite rare, get a lot of attention online because it's sensational and a lot of people just simply circulate it quite quickly. In fact, I can tell you from my experience, when I share articles about somebody who goes overboard, it gets a lot of clicks. And then when I share an article about somebody who gets rescued, it gets very few clicks, unfortunately. And that's because people just like drama, and this is just human nature, unfortunately. So ultimately, don't let it stop you from going on a cruise. Just understand the realities of what to expect when it does happen and what you should know to protect yourself going on a sailing in the future. Hopefully this video helped you out a little bit, provided some context as to what to expect and what the reality is of man overboard situations on cruise ships. If you have more questions about what happens in a situation of somebody going overboard on a cruise ship, let me know in the comments below. While you're down below our video, hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications. I promise you we have videos that are far less morbid than this one, but I felt like it was important to talk about. This has been Matt from RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com, and we'll talk again real soon.